Alright, this is SSLFamilyDad with Simple Suburban Living, and today I'm just going to be going through the process that I use to transplant and move things around in the aquaponics system. Just kind of give you a shot of the roots and what the roots are looking like underneath the rock here, and just give you some tips and tricks on what I found kind of works best and how things take when you move them around in the system. So if you've followed along with any of the other videos, I'm in the process of kind of moving things from these grow beds here that have my river rock that is causing pH problems, moving these into my new grow bed over here and switching this rock out. So I'm going to be doing a lot of moving plants around. I'd like to try to save some of these, and I'm going to be planting a lot of new plants as well and kind of starting fresh with some things. So what I'm going to do today is just move the kale plants that I have here. I've got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 kale plants, and I'm going to take all these out and we're going to transplant them into the other grow bed down there. So I'll bring you in close and just kind of show you how I'm taking them out and what the roots kind of look like and how we're popping them in the new bed. Okay, so the process is pretty straightforward. There's really no magic to it here. You want to be as careful with the roots as possible. You're going to rip some of the roots off. I mean, they're digging through all this rock, and so it's hard to get all of the roots out. But the best way to do it is to kind of get your hand in, and I'll show you on a couple of these so you can see it. Try to wiggle my hand down through the rock underneath, pretty far away from the plant, and then just get my fingers underneath it, kind of loosen all that rock up. And this kind of helps preserve the finer roots that are down at the bottom. So there's a lot of sediment in these beds, so these roots are all brown, covered with dirt, and that's one of the reasons why I built that swirl filter. But you can see the roots there's not that much to them. They don't have a real extensive root system. The tomato plants have a little bit larger roots, but these kale plants, the lettuce, the celery, it's a pretty small root system. So we'll go ahead and get the larger one out here as well. And see if we can get this out without damaging it too much. They seem to take pretty well even if you do damage the roots, but it does stunt the growth quite a bit if you tear them out and aren't real careful with the root system. So this one's a little bit more extensive, obviously, because it's a larger plant here. And you can see I actually tore off quite a bit of roots. They're still laying on the rocks there. But you do the best you can. And like I said, they're really fine roots because these are in water all the time and they have access to nutrients so easily. The plants generally do not grow a very extensive root system from what I've seen. Now if you have your bell siphons set to cycle slower, where the plants are out of the water more, I have seen that they tend to bury down a little bit deeper and burrow in and try to find water. If there's a longer cycle period, a longer period between when the water is up to the roots and when it's filling from the bottom of the barrel. It also depends on how deep your grow beds are as well. But so this one's got a real good root stock on it here. It should be pretty easy to transplant. These should take pretty well. So go ahead and take you over to the new bed and just show you how I'm planting these. Alright, so got our larger kale plant here. With the larger size rock, it's a little bit easier to get in and kind of dig a hole. The rock kind of stays in place as you move it out of the way a little bit better. If you have a real smaller rock like pea gravel and stuff, sometimes it's a little bit harder to get in there. But basically, I'm going to try to plant this one kind of towards the back here, give it enough room to grow, and try to conserve as much space as we can. But all we're going to do here, I'm just going to try to get a hole as deep as I can. And just kind of set the roots down in there. Try to get some of those bottom roots down at the bottom of the hole there. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to cover it up with rock. I want all those roots to be submerged in the water when it gets up to its highest level. And so as you can see here, it's just about where it was before in the other bed. You can dig down there, roots start kind of right about there. And that's about where the water level is going to come up to. So the nice thing about this is You know, that plant's in there nice and sturdy. I'll probably cut this leaf off because it's right underneath my water spout here. But and it's turned yellow anyway because it was out of the sunlight, but or out of the, I guess it's not really sunlight, but out of the grow lights there. But that's pretty much it for transplanting. I'll show you over here. I threw a celery in here last night, and I'm trying to root or clone a tomato cutting as well in here. I'm just going to see if I can take some cuttings off my other tomato plants and get them to root here in the aquaponics water, and then I'm going to try to transplant this outside into the garden or into regular soil. I haven't had real good luck with that in the past with rooting plants out of the aquaponics system into dirt. Like I said, because the roots grow kind of weaker in the system because they have access to the nutrients so readily and water in here, the roots don't really need to grow real thick and real deep. So when you go transplant them into dirt, a lot of times, especially if the plants are larger, they just don't survive. Tomato plants are a little different because they root pretty easily. So I'm going to try the tomato plants and see if I can get one of these to root in here and then take it outside and put it in dirt. I'll take you along with the progress on that and let you know how that works as well. But that's pretty much the process that I'm using to transplant things. Now I will say this, you don't want to move things around too much. The more you move things around, the plants do get stunted. I'll show you one of the green pepper plants that I moved around here a few weeks ago and just kind of show you the difference in growth. Alright, so this green pepper plant that you're looking at right here in the front, this has been in the system. I've never moved this since I planted it, and there's maybe 5 or 6 green peppers growing on here. It's been growing slowly but real well, healthy, flowering all the time. Try to get you back in the back here so you can see, hopefully. There's another green pepper plant right in the back here, and this is it right here. It's got a couple green peppers on it also. Hopefully you can see back there from that angle. But this one was always a little bit smaller. But I transplanted this over a month ago and it almost has stopped growing. It's taken a long time for the roots to kind of build back up there, and it's starting to get a little bit of new growth on it, but as you can see, some of the leaves are browning on it, it just didn't take real well from that transplant. So it'll keep going, and I'm sure it'll catch back up and start flowering again, but it did stunt the growth for quite a bit on that plant. Alright, so I've also got a celery here that has some pretty nice little roots on it. These celery have been growing great in here, so I'm going to pop a couple of these over to the new bed to try to free up some space in the one here next door to it, because the celery and the Swiss chard have been covering up all the smaller plants, and they've been not doing so well. So let's see if we can get this down in there. So that's another thing that I'm trying to do with these new grow beds, is trying to plant all my plants that do not need flowering light bulbs. So kale, celery, the tomato plant I'm going to take out of here. But in this bed, I'd like to just grow all leafy greens, things that just need the real high-powered 6500 Kelvin lights, and that way I don't have to put any of the 2700 Kelvin flowering light bulbs into the system in this grow bed. So that should be spaced out pretty well. I'm trying to keep things spaced out a little bit better here than I did before, so everything has a nice amount of room to grow. And we'll get the light moved over to this new grow bed, and we'll be all set. Well, we've got the new grow bed set up here, so we'll kind of see over the next couple weeks how everything takes after the little transplant. Like I said earlier, you're going to expect some stunting of growth. Definitely things will slow down as the roots kind of redevelop and rewind through the rock and get kind of reacquainted to their new area, and then things will just kind of burst back and start growing real fast again. So I've tried to kind of spread things out a little bit better. I really had a heck of a time tearing things out of that other grow bed because I had planted things way too close, and the roots were wound together, and the taller plants were covering the smaller ones, and they were dying off, and it was really kind of a mess. So when you're planting things out, make sure you plan ahead, kind of figure out how big the leaves are going to get, which ones are going to grow faster than others. You don't want a bunch of tall plants next to things that are growing slow, like peppers or something like that. You know, things will just die off and you'll end up wasting time. So hopefully this alignment or here or arrangement will work a little better. We'll take you along with the progress as it continues here. So thank you for watching today. If you have comments, please throw them in the comment section. If you have questions about anything, I'd love to answer any questions that anyone has, suggestions of course as well. Throw them down in the comments. Hit that thumbs up button for me. I really appreciate that. And subscribe to the channel if you want to follow along. We've got lots of other things going on around the Suburban homestead here, other sustainable projects and home improvement projects and repairs and other things that hopefully will help some people out. So subscribe if you like, interested in any of that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.